Hi there, we're all together here to learn how to make moon cookies. Since nobody can pronounce the German name Vanillekipferl or Vanilla Crescent, my son, when he was younger, he said, "Dad, they're moon cookies," and the name stuck. So to start out with, it's really 4 simple ingredients. We have walnut. Let me cover up Kirkland. I don't want to do a commercial for Kirkland. We have flour, sugar, and totally unsalted butter. So to get started, we need to grind some nuts. Now, there's some mechanical devices available with the KitchenAid, but I found that they're not, when they're grinding the nuts, they don't do it too fine. So here's an old nut grinder that a friend of mine from Germany sent me. And so what I'm going to do is put some walnuts in here. It's a really simple recipe, has 4 ingredients, as I said, and it takes 140 grams of walnuts, 140 grams of sugar, 280 grams of butter, and 340 grams of flour. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind some nuts. Now, some recipes may call for hazelnuts. However, since I'm over 70 and have lots of experience in making these, I discovered that walnuts are the best. Why? Because they have a little oil in there, which makes the cookies really nice and soft and tender rather than hard as the hazelnuts would do. Okay, just a little bit more to make it 140 grams. A little sampling. Make sure the product is okay. Oh yeah, they're good nuts. Now, little nut grinders like this are available through Amazon. They have all kinds, a really nice one. Like I said, I like this one the best, even though it's manual, but it turns out the product just like you would, nice and fine, and no lumps in there. Yeah, what do you know? 140 grams right on the nose. Okay, the scale I'm using is a Pampered Chef scale, and it has graduation for metric, and it has graduation for English. Now, everybody knows that when you use cups, pretty good. Most households are used to using cups. However, I found over the years that when you use metric, it's very precise. It's a lot easier measuring and looking at the numbers than taking a measuring cup and saying, yeah, that's about a cup or so. So the idea in baking, rather than in cooking and baking, precise measurements turn out precise products. Okay, so we have the nuts are in there. I'm going to take the flour. "340 grams of flour. It'll take a moment here. There we are. In with the flour. Now the sugar, 140 grams of sugar, which really, when you look at it, it's very, very little sugar. I mean, take a look at this. This is not a lot of sugar. It's not where the cookies are going to be so sweet that after eating 2 or 3 you get sick or you have enough sugar. So pour that into the KitchenAid blender. Put my little paddle in here and get it all ready. Now what I do is I turn it on slow speed, but I see that my wife has unplugged my machine, so we're going to take a little break and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and I checked the machine and it's running. Now what I normally do is I let the 3 ingredients slightly mix a little bit so they nicely mix. In the meantime, I take my butter and cut off 280 grams. And put it on my scale. Well, it's 220, so we'll have to give it a little bit more. And that is too much, so off with the heads. Precision, 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 exactly 280 grams. And so what I do is I put it back in the paper. The butter, of course, is unsalted. I tried all kind of different ones, but I find that the totally unsalted makes the cookies so much better, and you don't have the little salty aftertaste. And so what I do, so it nicely, it blends really nice. I cut it in little chunks and just put it in there carefully. Try not to get your finger in there because the machine will just go with your fingers. Not a pleasant thing to do. And then I would have to put new dough in there because it's probably bloody, and that would not make very nice cookies. Okay, so let me cut this up a little bit and put them in here. As the machine is slowly running and mixing and getting the butter in there, it blends it really nicely, because that's what we want, a nicely blended dough. I mean, I wouldn't want to have a big chunk of butter in my dough once I'm done with blending it, with mixing it. And okay, that's all 280 grams, and we'll put that away for now, just in case we decide to make another batch. My scale is done, so fold it up and put to the side. Okay, let's see, there's a little butter hanging over here. He doesn't want to mix in there with the dough. Now we'll turn it up a little bit faster. I discovered if I turn it up too fast, suddenly I have all this flour and everything on the counter, which doesn't look very good, and then I end up missing the dough here. Okay, it's blending really nice. When it's nicely smooth together, we'll turn it off. We don't want to overdo it. I always like when I see chefs that take the little paddle out and they go like this and they put it aside. Oh, wait a minute, here's dough on here. Let's not waste anything, you know. Waste not, want not. Here's the dough. It's nice and soft. You know, you can see that. It's soft, yet it's pliable, and if the butter is too soft, it's going to be really hard to form the cookies. And when it's too hard, same thing applies. So it's kind of a, you know, take the butter out, leave it about 20 minutes or so, and then the butter has to be just right. And you know, you do that a few times, you get the hang of it, and you'll see what I mean. Okay, so now my dough is all together here, and what I do is I take it out here, put it on my cookie sheet, make sure I get everything out, and put it aside for now. Mix it together. Oh yeah, wonderful little dough, nicely. Okay, and we're going to start forming the cookies here. I normally use about 3 cookie sheets, but I put 4 out there just in case. This amount of dough here should make about 200, 220. I've made as many as 250. I found over the years that when you make them too large, they spread out and they're really not as nice looking as they should be. So I take a little pinch here. What I do is I press it down and then take about a pinch. That's about the width of my thumb right here, and just put it in the palm of my hand here, roll it a little bit, nicely point it, and I find that when I do this, some people will say, oh, we'll do it rows like this. Okay, I being an old guy, I do a row here, and then a row up, and then I come across. That way they stay nice and straight, and yeah, a little too much dough. And so even this one has a little, the edge is too long. Okay, just crumble it up, do a little new one, nice and easy. There's no, don't get frustrated doing these. Just kind of roll them in your hand like this, nice and soft. And here it is. Put it down and give it a little turn right here and straighten it out. So it looks like a nice half moon like that. Okay, and since I'm normally not used to talking this much, we're going to take a little break, wet our whistles, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We made the dough. I kind of halved it because I'm a little slow lately, and so rather than the dough getting very soft, I put some in a little Ziploc bag and put it in the fridge. And now I took it out, and what I want to show you is how much to take for just one of the cookies. And even though I've been doing this for 70 years, or well, let's go a little bit back there. I don't think I made them when I was a little tyke, but this is really easy to make and lay them out like that. And so if they don't come out right, I crumble them up and I do it again, and just set one right next to the other, do the line like this, and then do one up. That helps me keep the line straight and nicely aligned, which then when you're finished, you take them off with your spatula from the cookie sheet and put them on the grid over here, where I will then dust them with powdered sugar. They're all even, and so you don't go zigzag through the rows there. Okay, this one looks like it's a little bit too much dough, so I'll take a little bit piece off and do it again, and hold my hand like this. Instead of holding it like that or like that, I just kind of do it like half, have a little indentation here, and just roll it a little bit nice and gently, and here it is. Turns out just like that. Okay, bring it down, bring this angle down and the other tip, and here it is. I mean, they don't have to be exactly one like the other, but pretty close. If you make one skinny like I'm doing, and then the next one really thick, they kind of connect together. When you take them off the cookie sheet and put them on the grid for dusting, then they break. I mean, they're very fragile. This is very fragile cookies. Not very sturdy like some of the chocolate chip. I hear the buzzer. I just finished one cookie sheet, and so we'll take it out, and we'll stop this for a moment, and we'll bring out the cookie sheet. Here they are. Here's another one we try to kind of make it like a little assembly line. And so what I do now is I take them very carefully off the cookie sheet, do about 5 on the spatula. I've taken as many as 6 or 7, but then they break, and you really don't want to do that. I mean, after you go through all the labor to do that, why destroy your labor? And I don't have any kids anymore, and the grandkids, they like eating the failures, but I try not to make too many failures. They like to eat the solid ones as well. And my daughter-in-laws and, well, my wife, she likes them as well. And in fact, I instituted her as the quality control inspector. So whenever I make some cookies, she gets 4 cookies and a glass of wine to make sure that the testing goes okay. And when she gives me the okay, yes, it's a good batch. Obviously, I know that already. But we play this little game. Hey, honey, how are they? Oh, they're perfect. Okay. Thank you for your vote of confidence. And so what I do is I put them on a grid like that, and then I take my powdered sugar. Now, what I did with the powdered sugar, I found that in the United States versus Europe, the powdered sugar has a lot of starch in there. So if you just use powdered sugar, it's very lumpy. And then as you spread it on your cookies, they will turn out lumpy. So what I do is I take a package of powdered sugar, put it in the bag over here, and then take some of the baker's sugar because it's very fine, and mix it almost the same amount, half and half on both. And then I add some vanilla sugar. You get that at the World Market or some of the German delis, and even our grocery store carries that. And there's 6 packets in here, and I cut the top off and put it in here, mix it up real good. And then what I end up with is some very fine sugar. So when I have it in my little tea strainer and I dust it like that, it comes out very nice and fine and covers it very nicely. And believe me, I tried a larger strainer, but then it goes over the side. This one has much more control that I found. But you know, some of those things you kind of have to do by trial and error and find out for yourself how it turns out, what's comfortable for you. Over the years, I found that this is the best that works for me. And when something is something working, why change it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So here we are with the cookies. They look like one looks like one or the other, and so uniformity is important, because when you're done with these and then start stacking them on a plate, will you lay one row down, and we'll be back in a moment with that and show you how to do that and why to stack them, because just laying them out on one plate just isn't enough. Normally a batch of these cookies will make about, you will end up between 220 and 250, depending on how big or how small you're making them. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, I mentioned a moment ago about the powdered sugar that I use, and I thought it was probably easier if we show you just rather than the finished product, what we started out with. Here's kind of the typical powdered sugar, confectioner's sugar. I call it powdered sugar. And take this, dump it in a large Ziploc bag, and then put the baker's sugar in there. Unfortunately, I used my amount of baker's sugar, and mix it in there, and then mix this package of the vanilla sugar. This is really the flavoring agent. That's why they call them Vanilla Crescent. And in the olden days, you used sugar, and you put a vanilla bean in there, and then you had to wait a month or 2 or 3 so the sugar would get down to flavor. Well, this is the fast and easy way, and really, to me, the efficient way, because if I want to make cookies today, I can't wait 3 months. I'll be back in January, and everybody will say, hey, where are my Christmas cookies? So we do it the fast way. There's 6 packets in here. I just cut the tops off, dump it in there, mix it up really good, and you end up with a really fine sugar. And the better you mix it, and you know, normally the baker's sugar comes in like a half-gallon, looks like a milk carton. And so I start with half of the milk carton, put it in there, mix it up, check it. If I need some more, I'll add some more, excuse me. And until I have the nice fine consistency like that and no lumps, then I know we're ready to go to the cookies, you know. So they're dusted. Rather than having lumps on there, everybody would like to have a nice fine cookie like this. And my staff now will grab some off to the side and do some testing. Excuse me. And if you hear oohs and ahs, don't worry, they're not getting any wine. They're just having cookies, okay? Excuse me. Okay, so we're at the powdered sugar here. And now what I've taken here for giving these away, if I have to mail them, I use a closed container, or if I hand out to a large group of my friends, they get about 250 in these stacked high, and that's one way. And my wife says, that doesn't look very Christmassy. I said, they don't care about the package, they care about what's in it. Okay, so for a little nicer presentation, you just take the cookies and start out laying them out on the platter right here. Now, some of you probably think, like, where's the doily that goes underneath there? Well, I experimented with that, but when you put the doily down and then somebody will pick up the cookies, because they're very fragile, they will break, and it just doesn't look as good. So, you know, I really leave it up to the individual. What do you prefer to do? And what works for you not necessarily works for anybody else. And so we're doing the cookies here. They're very fragile. I used to handle all these by hand individually. I find now that using the grid here and the spatula and bringing them out like that is really the perfect way. Minimal handling, and they don't break. They only break when you have a big party and people can't wait to have some, and they just grab for them and kind of makes a mess a little bit. But I have relatives that say, you know, because they obviously don't ship very well. The post office throws them around, and even UPS, any of those people probably, they don't, if you put fragile on it, that just means they're going to throw it around a little bit more. So I find that they don't ship very well. I like the personal presentation better. But friends of mine, they received them in the mail. I said, you know, how did they come out? And you try to put like a layer of popcorn over the top, nicely insulated so they don't give off any flavor. But they said, well, they were good. A couple were broken, but I ate them with a spoon. It was still good. So here we are. I'm going to finish this cookie sheet right here and line them all up and dust them some more. And then once this layer is filled over here, then I'll stop on the top layer. And I've laid as many as 4 or 5 layers on top, depending on how many people these cookies are going to. And it's a really nice, easy thing to make. Of course, I made them for so many years. But when you first start out, don't be frustrated. Very gentle. I always tell the ladies, I says, just treat the cookies nice and soft and gentle, the way you would treat your husband. And the guys, if they are interested in making it a surprise for their wives, I'll say the same thing. Treat them as gently as your wife or your girlfriend, and they'll come out really nice and very, very uniform. And the uniformity really pays off when you now put in a second layer. And so rather than one being big and one being thin and one being small, and you know, they all pretty well, as much as you can, they turn out the same way. They all turn out good. See, like this one here, this one got a little bit bigger, And as we put them in the oven at 350 degrees for 9 minutes. Now, I'm at 6,000 feet, so you may need to adjust and try one batch. You don't want the tips to turn brown because then they start getting a little burny flavor, and it takes a little bit away from the good taste. So experiment. You know, I set the timer. You heard the timer go off, and exactly at 9 minutes right here at 6,000 feet, they come out. They're ready to go. You let them cool off a little bit, and then you put them on the grid right here, and you dust them. And it's really nice and easy. And as I always say, when you bake or cook something, it shouldn't just taste good, it should also look good. And so a nice presentation is just as important in having a good product. And I'm right-handed, so I'll switch my hands here, dust them a little bit. A little bit more. Okay, let's load up the next row right over here. Hey, this one is trying to get away here. Hey, stay in line here. Sometimes it helps to have a couple of smaller ones, because if you have a tight spot there where you want to squeeze them in, it fits just perfectly. So like this one here, it's just a little bit too big for that spot. And now we'll try another layer. And what I try to do is offset them a little bit, you know, so the air will go through as they're drying out a little bit, and they turn out really nice that way. Of course, when you handle these or take them somewhere, careful. What I do is I put foil over to make sure there's no movement, and my poor wife many a times had to hold these while we're driving down a mountain, and so they arrive well at the destination. One to the side here. Okay, there's a couple of spots missing here, and what we'll do is we'll take the next cookie sheet and dust them and get them ready, and we'll return in just a moment. Okay, before the break, I was dusting some of the cookies, and we ran out, and so now we're making more. And I thought I'd show everybody how to do this. You know, take a little piece of dough, and what I normally do is come at, you know, the dough covered by my thumb. Okay, I have a fairly large thumb, but I make it smaller. And here again, you kind of have to work out your own size and whatever. So considerably taking the same amount and put it in your hand, kind of curve it a little bit, and just put it down here like that. You know, so they're nice and half moon or inverted U, whichever one you want to call it. See, I took a little dough, and it's not enough, so I'll add a little bit more. And even if you think you made a mistake or it doesn't turn out right, okay, just crumble it up and do it new again. You know, very gentle. Takes a couple of seconds to do that. And then as I'm putting it down, I'm holding it in one hand and put it down and put the little tip over there, and with the other finger kind of arrange it the way I like it, the way it should be, and then take the next one. Well, this one is a little too long, so I'll pinch off a little bit. You know, there's no hurry. If you want to do it to your liking, and I do it to mine, and so they all look rather uniformed and the same. Okay, a little bit more. Oh, not enough. Okay, we're getting towards the end of the dough here, so gonna use it sparingly here. Fold it in like that, and take another little piece of dough right here, my thumb size, and fold it in just like that. And I'll put that to the side here because I need to finish this row over here. Nice and gently, very little pressure. Yeah. Put it right in here, arrange it really nice so it looks uniform like the other ones. And well, let's see. There's a little room on top there. We'll try to put as many as we can on a cookie sheet. I mean, it doesn't really matter if you have 60 on there or 80 in the oven, and the temperature is 350, and it's set for convection. Now, if you don't have a convection oven, it probably will take a little bit longer. With the convection, my oven here, it takes exactly 9 minutes. Without convection on bake, it takes 14 minutes. But here again, I'm going by our altitude here, which is 6,000 feet. So make a small batch, put it in there and try it out. And when you have the system down to where it's perfect to your liking, then that's what you're going to use. So some people say, oh yeah, you gotta have a convection oven. Well, I'm not gonna run out tomorrow and get a convection oven if I don't have one. My old oven does just fine, and such, and so don't be intimidated and pushed into something you don't want to do. But when you make these cookies, and I tell you, they're really, really good. Here we are. Now put them in the oven. Nine minutes. Timer started. Okay, while that is going, I take the other sheet, which has just come out, and start putting them on the grid here to be dusted. And here again, I try to put as many as I can on there. Might as well use all the space you have. You know, sometimes I'm in a hurry, and that's when they start breaking off. So take your time. I mean, you don't want to make a cookie after all the mixing and rolling and the baking, and then suddenly the thing breaks at the end of your, you know, you're wasting your labor, you're wasting your time. And be kind of careful. Like I said, they're very, very gentle, very fragile, I think is the better word for it. And put them on here. Okay, we're almost there. Fill it up nice and slowly and give it a little space in between. Okay, to the side with them so they don't get broken. And now we resume our dusting. Okay, a little bit more. You don't want to apply too much, kind of a nice little dusting so the cookie, you really can't see any of the baked cookies anymore. You want to see nothing but the nice white with the powdered sugar. Okay, we're going to finish this one up here. This row over here. and put some more in the middle. As you noticed, I kind of offset them like that, so they're a little bit offset. I try to put one in between the other one, but you know, they're cookies and they're not really exactly rubber stamped one or the other, so you'll find some coverage over there, but don't worry about it. As we're putting them on there, they really get a little air in between. The really important thing to remember with these cookies, some people say, oh yeah, I'm going to put them in a thin, nice little thing and put the cap on. Well, if you do that, these cookies will go soft on you. So you want to cover them in foil, but leave one corner open so they remain nice and crispy. And you know, some people say, oh yeah, I'm going to bake them in October for Christmas. Well, if you want to do that, go ahead and try. I wouldn't, because these are really made for, I want to say, almost immediate eating. You know, fresh, nice and crispy and good. And well, I've had some for weeks and weeks, but then I made sure that they had a little air on there and they weren't covered too much or too tight. And so now what we're going to do is we're almost done here. And since I worked so hard, here comes my reward. I get to have a cookie. And a little wine. Cheers. Merry Christmas. It's heaven on earth. Thank you very much. We'll see you later.
Christmas. I'm not dreaming of a white Christmas. All I'm dreaming of the whole day long is a peaceful world. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to those of you who live in fear. And let us hope that very soon